Hey, this is Russell Whitney. You're watching Expert Insider, where I always bring you new experts to help you grow your business, help you think bigger outside of the box and see your true full potential. Today I have the privilege with sitting with Mr. Chris Record, who over the past 7 years has made tens of millions of dollars online. We're going to get a little bit into how he got started, his struggles, and then his successes, and also how you can get started in the internet marketing business. Chris, awesome. Welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Glad to have you here. So, Chris, before we get started into what you're doing right now, which is LifePreneur, correct?
Yeah, correct.
And that's something you all want to check out, is LifePreneur, if you want to get going on internet marketing and building a business. So, how did you get started in your entrepreneurial career? When did you know, at what age, that you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
So it's a tough question to answer exactly, but it kind of started like this. I was a misfit in my teenage years, did not do well in school.
Right.
So, I didn't take the clear path of go to school, get good grades, get a good education, and get a good job.
Right.
I didn't take that path. Instead, I took the path of hang out with the worst kids possible, get around the worst influence possible, and drop out of school. So I dropped out of school in the 9th grade.
All right.
And actually, I've never even been back. So I don't
really?
even have.
You don't even have a GED, high school diploma, nothing?
Nothing.
Well, you don't need that to become successful. I mean, for me, I didn't go to college. I never wanted to go. My GPA in high school was 1.8. I was pretty much below stupid. I didn't pay attention. I didn't care. And I got around the bad kids and the wrong kids. Ended up getting into an addiction. Everything fell apart. Did you have any trouble with drugs, alcohol?
I had a little bit of trouble with drugs. It's not as bad as my friends, though. The people that I hung out with were pretty severely into drugs.
Okay.
The worst was heroin. A lot of my friends I hung out with got into heroin, and unfortunately,
not here anymore.
They're not here anymore.
Yep.
Heroin was the worst of the worst. And somehow I dodged and avoided that. But I did have my obsessions and my addictions. So since I dropped out of school, when I was around 18 years old, I started kind of getting my life together. I started hanging out with different friends, and I went out and tried to get jobs, and they all wanted like a high school education. They wanted resumes, things that I really wasn't that smart.
Right.
I hadn't really read it. I don't think I'd ever even read a single book in my life at that point. So here I am, this 18, 19, 20-year-old, trying to figure out how to live on my own in California where it was expensive. And it led me to the industry of sales, because when I went in for a sales job, they didn't care if I graduated high school.
Exactly.
They didn't care. They didn't even ask for a
They all
resume.
care if you could bring in revenue, right?
It was just this. It was
great.
If you sell, you get paid, and if you don't sell, you don't get paid. And
Agreed.
And so I liked the idea that I was given a fair shot despite my background.
Right.
So I really kind of fell in love with sales. I tried a lot of different industries until I really kind of found the industry that I liked, which was technology and the internet. Okay, this was like the early 2000s, and I was in the Silicon Valley, living in the Bay Area, and technology was booming. So I started getting involved in stuff, and all of the jobs, all the high-paying six-figure jobs really did require education. But the commission-based entrepreneurial type jobs, I could just get in and you could actually make more money.
Right.
So my entrepreneurial journey started based on the fact that I didn't see any other option.
Right.
I didn't know of any other option.
Right.
And it also started because it wasn't just me I was taking care of. My mom was on welfare and food stamps and Section 8 housing.
Oh, wow.
And, growing up, that's where I got a lot of my bad influence, was living in Section 8 with a bunch of other kids raised by single moms in Section 8.
For sure.
And I just wanted to be able to make enough money to support me and to be able to support my family. So a job wasn't going to cut it.
Right.
And that led me to entrepreneurship.
That's awesome. And your sales job, what was your first sales job that you were in?
Okay, so first sales job that I recall. Well, if I want to go back to the first one, there was one time where I was selling like cookies and sodas and this kind of stuff, and I made like 50 or 100 bucks that day.
Right.
But let's go into a first real one. I was working at a restaurant as like a busboy, just some basic job. I saved up enough money to buy a car, my first ever car. And I went to the car dealership, and there was no cars in my range. I had like $2,000 or something, maybe $2,500. I thought that was enough for a car.
Right.
All the cars were like $5,000 and above.
Yeah.
So I haggled with the sales rep back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and talked them down from about $6,000 to $2,500 to sell me the car. So I'm like 18 years old or 19 years old, and the owner of the dealership, this little small dealership, comes outside and says, I want to shake the hand and meet the guy who just haggled down,
the top sales guys.
$2,500.
Oh, wow.
So he met me and he goes, let me ask you something. Would you be open to working here at this dealership? With those negotiation skills, we'd love to have you on our team.
Awesome.
Not on the buyer. So I took that job, and what would happen is I would work weekdays and weeknights at the restaurant, and then I would work weekends, just Saturday and Sunday, sitting around this car dealership. And at first, it sucked. I mean, I sat there all
Of
day.
course,
You
yeah.
wait for somebody to walk on,
Yep.
and then they just tell you they're not interested. They're just looking.
Right, just
I didn't
looking.
understand. I got no training, nothing. And then what happened? Everything changed. Was my first time getting mentorship, and mentorship is a big part of my story.
Yes.
Was mentorship. One of the top. I was in Santa Cruz, California at the time. One of the top sales reps of San Jose, Stevens Creek Toyota, this massive dealership, sells thousands of cars, was
Right.
in town visiting his friend who owned the dealership.
Right.
And I just looked at him like he was like a god in the car sales industry, floated, his feet
Right.
were like that high off the ground,
Right.
dressed perfectly. And I just asked him, I'm like, can you please give me any tips? It's my second
Right.
month and I haven't sold a car yet.
Yes.
Please, anything. And for whatever reason, the guy liked me. He liked my ambition.
Yep.
So he taught me the basics. He taught me about walking around a car. He taught me, just changed everything. He's like, don't take a test drive that way, take a test drive this way. Here's why. He started telling me how to overcome objections, and he took me under his wing for about a day, spent about a day together. And I kid you not, within 30 days, I went from selling no cars to being the #1 salesman on the lot.
Wow.
And the owner gave me the bonus of being able to drive really any car I wanted for the night and bring
That's
it back
awesome.
onto the lot, all because of mentorship. And that's when I fell in love
Right.
with sales, because I made more money that weekend. The first weekend I made sales, I sold 2 cars. I made more money than the whole month in the restaurant business.
Gotcha.
So I just went and quit my job.
For sure.
Quit and became a
I would have
full-time
done the same
sales guy.
thing. You know, and one area that you're hitting, what we're going to talk about is mentoring. So mentoring is the key for success, and I always preach this over and over again about the importance of getting mentoring. But what you were talking about with the guy that gave you the sales opportunity and then reaching out to find a mentor, you were just asking questions, but willing to. And I think so many people are scared to ask questions because I believe we get a lot of times hit by society that says that question doesn't matter, or your question's not important, or people think they're asking dumb questions. Had you not approached that person, asked the questions, you probably wouldn't have had the success in the business. Would you agree?
I would agree. And there's a part of that story, because we're compressing this whole timeline.
Right.
There's a part I left out, which is I didn't just walk up to him and beg him for mentorship.
Of
That's how I
course.
came across. What I actually, based on my memory, I was young. But
I
based
didn't
on my
take it that
memory-
way.
yeah. Based on my memory, this is kind of how I remember it going. Was first things first, when he walked in, I'm like, I gotta have an angle to talk to this guy. I cannot
Right.
let this guy go without trying.
Right.
So I went up, walked up to him like I was an assistant. I said, sir, I'd love to get you a cup of coffee. How do you take your coffee?
Right.
And that's how I started. And then I went and got him a cup of coffee.
Right.
And I also said, hey, also, let me get you something to eat. What do you want?
Right.
And I
You were
just-
being a service to him.
being a service to him, because
Right.
he didn't know me. Why would he take
Right,
time?
of course.
And I wanted this guy's information.
Right.
And then so it was like I just put myself in front of him 2 or 3 times.
Right.
Then finally the owner had left the room, and then it was just me and him in there.
Right.
That was when
That's
I saw
when
my
you asked the
opportunity.
question.
Had I just come in and been this greedy, like what's in it for me guy?
Of course.
I don't think he ever would have mentored me.
And I think that's a big thing that people need to understand. We'll talk about that for your success and getting mentorship out there or getting the answers that you want is being of service. I just did an interview with Brad, a friend of mine, and we were all talking about the same thing, about creating service, being a service for others. In business, also it's about creating service and servicing people, and something that we talked a little bit about the interview before the interview was getting into the greed factor as opposed to servicing people.
Yeah.
We can go make a ton of money selling education, but why not service people and the money will follow, right? So this is Russell Whitney. You're watching Expert Insider. When we come back, we're going to talk about mentorship.